Now the Todd father with us. We'll get serious somewhat. Um, I know you weren't able to make it to the game the other day, but it's an exhibition game, so all you needed to see was the second half, really, to see anything. If you got to see that, but it at least showed me that they can play the level of defense needed, probably, although it was not against a team that has the level of players they're going to see. But when they turned it up, boy, they turned it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those scenarios that I wish fans ahead of time could write down on a piece of paper and say, what do I expect out of this very first scrimmage where, the band's playing and the lights are on and the timeouts are called and everything is it's a screenplay for the way games are going to go, and you get to act it out and you get to do everything exactly the way it's going to be. And it's the first time for a lot of these guys in Assembly Hall. Now, I know some of them transferred from other schools, but it's the first time they've had an opportunity to go through this the way it's going to play out in a game. And so I wish fans and everyone could really sit back and write down what they expect out of it. And then when it isn't pretty in the first half, you're not freaking out about it because, it's almost like that Dr. Pepper commercial where the people watch the first play of the game and then they set everything on fire and say the season's over. I mean, that's kind of the way the first half was, where it seemed like everyone on Twitter was like, yep, it's over. Next, what's 2025 got for us? Because it was just frustrating a little bit because I didn't expect a lot out of that. I remember what those are like. They're not pretty, no matter how good the players are. If it had been flawless and pretty, I would almost be a little bit nervous because, I think the good thing is we would have all written down, hey, we want the second half to look better than the first half. That's exactly what happened. We wanted them to start to look more comfortable together. We wanted them to start to look like they're gaining some cohesion and playing together. And I think that's all of what happened. So I think we got exactly out of the scrimmage of what we would have wanted, but it sure didn't seem that way if you just followed it on Twitter. From a fan's perspective.
Yeah, the first half was they were just out there not doing much at all.
Yeah.
And it was probably worrisome for fans because I'll tell you, just from watching it, you're like, what the hell are they doing? Because there was no cohesion. There was no offense being run, really. It just looked like that they were kind of throwing the ball around, and they knew that they were playing a Division II team, so it's not like they were in there getting up and they were fired up, ready to go. Now, they came out in the second half that way, but that probably had to do with Woody sticking a fire poker up their arse to play that level of defense. But that's also, you have to learn to play at that level
for sure
for both halves from start to finish. I'm sure when you were a freshman, the speed of the game is so different, and you cannot emulate that until you are in it.
Yeah, and one thing that I do want to say in the difference in level of basketball between Division II and Division I over the years has gotten a lot closer. So I mean, it's not like a lot of those guys couldn't play Division I somewhere. That's truly not a thing. I mean, they probably could, just things need to go their way. They need to get a little bit better in some different areas. But I mean, it isn't like playing a Division II team's like playing a high school team. Okay. I mean, they're still quality players that have a good system, that understand, that have all practiced together. So that part of it is one thing, but from Indiana's perspective, I mean, the game itself is totally different. I don't care how much you practiced. That's why I think last year, Indiana being able to travel early and play those games in the summertime was a huge benefit to that team. I think this team I think they'll get better. Each half we get to see them play, and that's a good thing. That's a great thing. I mean, you've got some freshmen that are going to be, huge. And yes, I don't care how big of AAU level or high school level they played. It's going to be a different speed, and the size of the court's different, and everything is different from what these guys are used to in high school. And so, it's just all of it should continue to get better. And that is what happened in the game. So I think we should come out of it feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and I've talked about last year. Everybody talked about the depth, and actually there wasn't the depth there that was thought. But part of that was because
Injury,
you lose your point guard,
Yep.
and boom, all of a sudden now your backup is your guy that doesn't have a backup. And while Galloway tried to play, he's not a point guard. He's not a point guard at the level that you need to win at that level. And which I'm not. That's not a knock on him. It's not his position. But they had that this year right now, barring injury. Gabe Cupps is a hell of a backup. This kid he reminds me of somebody from your era. He's a gym rat. He's a scrapper.
Yep.
I mean, you probably know a ton of guys that you could say, he reminds me of these guys, man. He's just one of those defensive, hard-nosed point guards, can play. He's a baller.
I mean this in the most complimentary way possible, but he's an annoying gnat that you just want to get off of you all the time. Like, he just drives you insane, and he's the guy you want on your team, not playing against you. And I've said this from the very first practice I got to go watch, that it's going to be difficult to keep him off the floor. And I think there will be a lot of opportunities this season for Xavier and Gabe to play together. And I think Indiana's going to have a tough team to match up with when they have that. And Xavier, I don't think anyone's, just because his shot doesn't look fantastic, I don't think anyone's going to call him a shooting guard. But I mean, he's capable of being a big time offensive threat, and to be able to have another guy that can't handle the ball. I think that hindered Jalen Hood-Schifino last year a lot, him having to be the primary ball handler all the time. I think it's his best quality. I think he's great at it. But to have to do it all the time and not have a release or a relief person to do it is difficult. And it makes your team different. It makes you play differently. And I think having that opportunity to play that this year, I think is going to make Xavier better. I think it's going to put Coach Woodson in a good position with the opportunity to play those guys together and kind of get some, teams are not going to be able to go pressure the ball, and Indiana struggled to get it up because you said it. I mean, Galloway is easily capable. He's not a point guard and will never be a point guard, but he's easily capable of handling those responsibilities. But I think having those other two guys back there that are point guards is a big help for Indiana. And they are fairly deep in a couple of different categories. And, I've said it all along. I think the same thing we're all going to sit here and wait for is we're going to see how this team shoots the ball. I mean, if they can knock down shots, they're going to be in good shape.
And that's something we didn't see from Mackenzie Mbako yet, who we've heard that that is one of his positive traits. I did see 7'2" Kel'el Ware knock two down, and the second one was pretty. He was out there, and he looked like Dirk Nowitzki stroking the ball, and boom, it goes in. And
hard to rebound from out there.
Oh, it is.
I love the ability to be able to stretch the floor. Believe me, I love that. But as long as he hustles to get rebounds, I'm fine. He can shoot as many 3-pointers as he wants.
Well, and that's a point I was going to bring up, talking about Xavier not being, shooting guard. He can definitely shoot, but he can also get to the rim. And especially now, if Indiana is able to run a spread offense as opposed to last season, definitely was a post-driven offense through Trace Jackson Davis. Well, now that's not what Mike Woodson wants to see. He wants to see, not all the time, but he wants to see Kel'el Ware be able to get out on the perimeter and hopefully draw somebody with him. And now that opens it up. You've got Xavier who can get to the rim. These guys are much more athletic. Mackenzie Mbako, like I mentioned, but a guy like Anthony Walker off the bench. This dude's an athlete, man.
Yeah.
So it will create a lot of different opportunities offensively if Indiana can do those things that they need to set that up.
Yeah, I mean, last year going into every game, not only Indiana fans, but all opponents, everyone knew the best player on Indiana's team was Trace. And they were going to try to run the offense through him the majority of the time, which meant throwing the ball into the post. I think after a lot of games this year, we're going to say the best player on Indiana is a different person. I mean, I think we're going to say it's Xavier a lot. I think we're going to say it's Mbako a lot. I think we're going to say it's Malik a lot. I mean, I will put myself out on a limb and say this, and this is aggressive if you know what I think of this particular player. But I think Mackenzie Mbako is, if I said his name correctly, I think he is the best shooter Indiana has had come in since Jay Edwards. And I mean it. Yeah, he's that good. His stroke is that pure. And
holy crap.
If the speed of the game can get it to slow down a little bit to where, he's playing like a sophomore or a junior, he's going to surprise, maybe not surprise. He's going to produce what people think he should produce. And he is that good of a shooter. His stroke is legit. It's as pure as anyone I've seen since Jay Edwards.